Good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show, Post, live streaming on Facebook Live and the Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports. My name is Big Reg, and I'm joined this evening by my partners in crime. How you doing, J3? How you feeling, brother?
Feeling a lot better, man. Thank you all for your blessings and your well wishes and your prayers last week. I appreciate it.
Amen.
Glad to have you back, brother. You know we're always there for you.
Thank you.
We got Big Ed in the building. How you feeling, Ed?
I'm really fine, actually. So I'm happy to be here, get ready to get started talking about some sports.
All right, all right. We got Professor J in the building. What's going on, Professor? How you feeling this evening?
What's going on, everybody? Y'all know how I feel. I'm feeling great and feeling fine. Praise the Lord. Let's kick it off.
Let's kick it in. Last but certainly not least, the man, the myth, the legend. Man, Johnny is in the building. What's up, Johnny?
What's fellas and what's going on, everybody out there in Facebook Live and YouTube land? Feeling pretty good. I'm down 3 pounds. I haven't quite brought sexy back, but I'm catching the bus.
I hear you, partner. I hear you. Well, this evening, we will discuss the canceling of NCAA football and fall sports by one of the major HBCU institutions, the NBA plans to return to the bubble and their schedule release, and hit Vince Carter's retirement announcement, Major League Baseball startup plans for their 60-game season, plus some other topics that caught our eye and our attention, and of course our final post of the evening. So sit back, relax. We appreciate you tuning in, and this is Post, the Positional Sports Talk Show. Now, before we get into all that, we had a little news Sunday. Actually, 2 pieces of news Sunday kicked off from New England. They kind of slid the first one in to take a little bit off of that second one that was slid in. As most of you have heard, Cam has finally agreed to turn. Hit Cam and the New England Patriots supposedly going to sign a 1-year contract. Cam still has to pass the physical, but from what everybody says, Cam's in phenomenal shape, ready to go. And based on his post, he said he's coming from some necks. He ready to do some business. So, first of all, what y'all think about Cam going to New England?
Is he starting? Have we heard that yet? Or is he competing?
He's starting.
I heard he competing, but we know he should start, hands down. I mean,
Should
Stidham.
start.
Come on, man. Stidham. Can you even say his name? Stidham.
Should start and will start are 2 different things. The question is he going to start?
I believe they're going to start him. I don't think you sign him to a 1-year deal to see if he's a great locker room motivator. They're going to put that guy on the field. They know he has a lot of talent. He's very interactive with his social media. He's been showing you his workouts, the arm strength, the ability to get in and out of the pocket, at least mimicking it in practice. So to me, he looks great. He looks strong. He looks healthy. And from what he's consistently been saying to the people, he looks determined. The NFL better watch out.
Now, I got a question for you, though, because we all know that Belichick likes to throw the ball. But I don't think he's ever seen a mobile quarterback since he's been in New England. Has he?
Oh, so I'm gonna this whole discussion, I'm gonna just go with the fact that I believe he's healthy. So that's number one. Number 2, when this signing came down the pike, I was sitting there and I just thought it was the perfect fit. He actually has extensive knowledge with a quarterback of this type, because if you go back to Tim Tebow when he got drafted by the Denver Broncos, his head coach and by de facto offensive coordinator is now the long-term offensive coordinator, Josh Daniels of New England Patriots. So they know how to use Cam because they've had a similar quarterback in Denver and Tim Tebow, who unfortunately beat Pittsburgh in a playoff game and then was out of the league after that. But
Sure
that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. But I actually think it's a great pickup. I'm not happy with the contract and the length of time it took to get there.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna get into that.
But nevertheless, I think it's a perfect fit. New England loves their tight ends. They love short, quick slant passes. The offense, if you really sit back and think about it, is ideally suited for a healthy Cam Newton.
Tim Tebow was an Atari. My man Cam Newton is a fresh out the box PS5.
No.
You know, they both run, and he's a running quarterback as well. So I get the comparison, but I think Bill Belichick may be blown away a little bit when he really comes face to face and day to day with the physical specimen that is Cam Newton. He's tough to take down in the pocket. He stands well above his offensive lineman. He's actually is a lot smarter than people want to give him credit for. And the man can read some defenses, and he can throw that ball. I think when Bill Belichick around week 8, when he unleashes Cam, because he will, when he realizes what he has, Cam is going to take over. This is going to be nice. I like this. So, it got me excited.
So real quick, I did read something the other day, and Belichick is not actually naive to Cam's ability because of the fact that he mentioned that 4 or 5 years ago that when he played against Cam Newton, he was like one of the best quarterbacks that he's seen on the field playing against his team. So I don't think
Yeah, to your point, J3, they actually had that game on this weekend on ESPN where Cam threw something like 4 touchdowns in the first half. I mean, they were drilling New England, like just killing them. I think they beat them by like 2 or 3 touchdowns in that game, but Cam was on fire on that game. So that's probably the game that you're referring to. And just to answer the question, yeah, I think if healthy, that rocket arm that he has, remember the form that he had when he was MVP caliber, when they went all the way to the Super Bowl at 15-1. That's the Cam Newton that we potentially could see. And if he gets out there under the genius of Belichick and that offense, and they really put a couple of additional weapons around him, I think we might see rejuvenation of that MVP year. I think it could happen. But if he's not healthy, then we're going to see some terrible football play. I think we got to entertain that side of it as well.
Before we move on to the contract point, I think nobody's really answered your question, Joe. Well, Johnny said yes. Cam will be the starter.
I said yes in the beginning.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Cam will be the starter.
Come closer.
If really, if New England decides to adjust their offense and tailor it towards Cam. If they're trying to make Cam absorb their playbook, learn their playbook, then Stidham will start the beginning of the season and Cam will eventually take over once he gets everything under control.
So you don't think they're going to compete at all? You don't think they're going to compete at all? They're just going to automatically have Stidham start?
Well,
why do you think they wouldn't compete in Stidham? They're still in the AFC East.
Well,
it's not like they're world beaters.
One of the things that Belichick wanted to change moving forward with Tom Brady exiting, he wanted to simplify. He felt that the playbook and the offense was a little too extensive for younger players to pick up. And so it was already in the works to not dummy down, but to just tighten it up a little bit, so to speak, the offense. But whether the question of whether Cam is going to start, if healthy, he's going to start. I don't even think that's a debate. I don't see anything. I don't see anybody on that roster preventing him from starting. The only thing that could prevent Cam from starting is himself.
How hard is it to throw a slant to your slot receiver or to your tight end?
I just watched Mason Rudolph for 14 games almost, so it's very difficult.
Well, we know Cam can do it.
And you have to realize the old New England offense, everything was read based. It wasn't just you run this route. It was when you take off based on how the defense is playing you and shading you, you have to read that and go a certain direction. And if you didn't read it the same quarterback read it, it was going to be a problem for the quarterback because he was going to be letting the ball go and you end up throwing interceptions. So their offense is supposedly very, very complicated, but if they bring it down to a level and play the Cam's strengths, I think they can be lethal.
I think where the issue may lie is you get into the middle of the season, things are not particularly going Cam's way, and he has one of his meltdown moments that he has from time to time post game, and how that will in turn impact the relationship between him and Belichick, and how New England tries to keep things in house. They try not to give off too much emotion. They're very much like how Pittsburgh used to be when they kept everything hush hush, and we're gonna keep this inside, and we'll handle our issues like men, and we'll let the media know what we want the media to know. Being that Cam Newton is a lot younger guy, he's definitely a big individual who plays a heavy role in this social media game. I'm just hoping he keeps his composure and does what he needs to do, so him and Bill Belichick can make some beautiful music.
Yeah, I guarantee you they already had that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the reason why he's bringing Cam in is because he believes that he's matured in a way over the years where that wouldn't be a distraction or a problem. And then his contract says, I know we're going to get into it, that if you don't play by the Patriot way, we can cut bait with you. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, but has New England ever really had a problem bringing in like superstars who have had shady reputations as far as, and I'm not saying Cam has a shady reputation. First of all,
I'd say where'd that come from?
Antonio Brown.
But
Randy Moss.
But Moss you never heard a word. He was a model citizen.
Exactly. You just made my point. So he's not going to bring in a Cam Newton that's going to be that kind of distraction.
Cam knows what he's up against, and as Johnny said, Cam's a smart dude. He's just eccentric and different,
to say the least.
So, but that's his thing. He thinks he's a fashion icon, and he's serious into that world. Travels the world in the off season, going to fashion shows all around the world. He's been designing clothes. He's supposed to be putting out his own clothing line. So that's him.
Johnny, put that picture up for us again.
No,
nah, we ain't going there. We ain't going there. But let's get into the contract. And the contract is $1.1 million base salary with incentives that Cam can earn up to $7.5 million. Two problems I have with that. First of all, the $1.1 million. While that's a lot of money to us ordinary everyday folks, in football money, that's the league veteran minimum. You're talking about a former MVP, Heisman Trophy winner, multi-time Pro Bowler, signing for the minimum. And depending on how, I know most of y'all are aware, when you have an incentive-laden contract, incentives are set up one or two ways. They either set up real easy, so you're going to make all the money, or they set up real hard. It's very, very rarely in between. So until we see those final numbers, we won't know how much Cam's getting. But let me run down a few names for y'all who are going to be making more money based than Cam Newton this season. See if this rings any bells. Cooper Rush, $1.25 million. Third string quarterback for the Giants. Joe Flacco, $1.275 million.
Flacco.
Just coming off back and neck surgery. They don't even know if he can play. Chad Henne, he's still in the league. $1.625 million for the Chiefs. Matt Barkley, who's gone around 5 different teams, gonna make $2 million this year.
Wow.
For the Redskin fans, Nate Sudfeld, he was the third string quarterback for the Redskins, and they had to cut him when the quarterbacks got hurt. He gonna make $2 million for the Eagles this year. McCoy is still in the league.
Right.
He's actually the backup for the Giants. He getting $2.25 million. So the Giants got 3 quarterbacks that's gonna be making more than Cam is this year. RG3 gonna be making more than Cam.
That's right. That's right.
RG3 healthy.
Bobby 3 sticks.
Come
He
on
healthy.
now.
He just on the bench.
AJ McCarron for y'all Bama fans.
Wow.
AJ gonna be making $4 million. AJ ain't started a game since he been in NFL, holding on, making $4 million.
I didn't know he was still playing.
We know about Andy Dalton in Dallas, and then the one that really gets me, Marcus Mariota, the man who lost his job, is making $9 million for the Raiders, and Cam has to sign a league minimum deal.
You're right.
Jameis signs just above the league minimum. I got a problem with that. Why these former black starting quarterbacks gotta take anything they can get just to stay in the league, but you got these guys who've never suited up and played an actual game getting paid more than them.
And it's not only that, Big Reg, but as you hit it on the head, the nail on the head, it's not only that they're taking these minimum deals, it's that they have to prove themselves in addition to that. So you're like, okay, wait a minute. I have to prove myself, but I've already proved myself. The only issue as far as Cam is concerned is he healthy? That's it. But even 20%, he's better than everyone on that list you mentioned.
Real talk. That's real talk.
Everyone.
So we all know what's going on, whether we want to say it or we don't. Oh, okay. We know what's going on. But
it's not hitting though. That's up front. 21 backup quarterbacks can make more money than Cam. I didn't go into some of the bum starters that shouldn't be playing in front of Cam. These are backups.
Right.
But that goes to the point there that with these TV contracts, that the goal isn't necessarily to win football games. We've seen it time and time again with star athletes, particularly black athletes, that can't find work for whatever reason. It all comes down to the NFL. There's really no motivation for a team, particularly when a league that has the revenue sharing set up like the NFL does. There's really no motivation for a team to really be successful because they're going to print money anyway. I mean, we're in the DMV, and we see that yearly. You can't tell me they're losing money over in Landover. I'm sorry, Raul John. You can't tell me they're losing money. So, the owners put who they want in certain positions, whether it be the GM, the president, the quarterback, or whatever else position they can get away with. And here we are. But the only thing as of late, I've been practicing trying to look at the glass half full. And I know I've been told this many times over and over again that bad organizations, ruin players and ruin business plans. And at least going to New England, you're going to a good organization, and you're going to a great coach and owner and GM. So that's the good thing as far as Cam is concerned.
I agree with you because that's much better than going down to Jacksonville, where he could be the starter as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what's funny to me, and I'm just throwing this out there, y'all. Just give me how y'all feel about it. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots. I'm not saying he appears to be a guy that's overly supportive, who has been supportive of a lot of black individuals outside of sports. He was involved with the Meek Mill case, who happens to be a popular rapper out of Philly, who was dealing with some legal issues with a judge and
Mm-hmm.
they just kept throwing them back in jail. I say all that to say this. I do believe a lot of black quarterbacks are shorted. I'm wondering if this time did that all the way happen to Cam. One, New England is not necessarily the place you go to get paid. Nobody says, you know what? After I win my Super Bowl, I'm gonna go out there to Boston and sit down and get paid because they be breaking people off. No, that's the Washington Redskins. That's what we do. That's what we do. We're gonna give $100 million to Donovan McNabb after Andy Reid cuts him. That's what we're going to do. So I don't know if it's necessarily the contract he received was completely based on his race. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. What do you all think?
I think he's
Well,
just
I
happy.
certainly feel like it is. I feel like it is. I think that, we got to tackle the tough issues sometimes and just call it like it is. Because a man of this talent, I mean, just look across the board. There are other quarterbacks that we just named and some that are unnamed that are coming back off of injuries, but yet they've got second, third, fourth, fifth chances, and they probably didn't belong in the league in the first place. But now you have a former MVP, played in a Super Bowl, carried a team on his back for numerous years, came off of 2 injuries, we know, but all intents and purposes are pointing in the direction that he is much healthier again and ready to go. But yet the whole entire league, people that had holes, let's look at Chicago for one example. You mean to tell me he couldn't walk into Chicago day one and be the starter in that camp? With those 2 quarterbacks that they have, nothing against Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles, but we know that he's streaky. He just like Joe Flacco, he got hot at the right time and he won a Super Bowl. So kudos to him. But longevity-wise, Cam Newton is the type of quarterback that can put a team on his back and carry them. And with their defense, I mean, come on now. But they didn't take a sniff at him. But then the contract that he's getting, we already know that he's being lowballed. Yeah, it's been said that it has incentives in it that could get him up to 0.2 million or something like that for this year. But just the fact that he has to climb that pole just to get to that point when you already know he's worth that money from day one. So I agree with you. We got to call it what it is. Call a spade a spade.
And Johnny, this is something for you to consider if you don't think this is, or if you asked the question if we thought it was race-based. Peyton Manning had back surgery, and it was doubtful if he could even walk without a cane, let alone get hit by an NFL quarterback. He was out for an entire year.
Neck too.
He had the entire league courting him once he got released from the Colts. Private jets was flying him all over this country trying to get his services. He ended up, doing his thing out in Denver, getting a Super Bowl, getting a 2, winning 1. But the point is, why didn't he have to go through these hoops? He didn't take a minimum wage deal, because basically that's what he took. He took a minimum wage deal in the NFL just to get a shot at playing again. And the history's been proven that, hey, if he doesn't take this deal, now you're 2 years out. There's a pandemic going on. You never know if he's going to get an opportunity to get back into the league. So the contract sucks. It's disrespectful, but at least he's back with a team that at least has some respect behind themselves as far as how to go about winning football games.
And Ed, think back to Teddy Bridgewater when he first got hurt with Minnesota. I mean, he got done the same way. If he didn't end up in New Orleans being under the tutelage of Sean Payton and then Drew going out for those few games and him being able to showcase himself, he would still be caught in that mix, the same one we're talking about now, because he was coming off injury after having a phenomenal year. And then people kind of threw him by the wayside too. And I feel that he signed too quickly with Carolina instead of allowing most of the NFL to court him a little bit better, and he could have ended up with a better contract.
I definitely expected a lot more out of the teams. So I do side with you all. Don't get it twisted. I was more concerned about this particular battle than the war, but you're right. The war is definitely more important. But I didn't think New England stepped in and looked at as race and made it a bigger deal than it needed to be, in my opinion. I could be wrong because New England is known for throwing out some of the weirdest contracts. The way they just operate with players, they'll get rid of you 1 or 2 years beforehand. Them and numbers and contracts has always been a consistent issue. Many players have talked about it. Nobody goes to New England to get paid. Nobody.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
You know, but the league they should have definitely went crazy for him because he is one of the top 10, 12 quarterbacks in the league, I think, when he's healthy.
Yeah. As far as the money goes, as far as New England, they didn't have a lot of cap space left over. So I can understand that. But just the fact that, as we said over and over again, a former MVP has got to go through a prove-it deal on a minimum deal to make a payment. But you got a whole bunch of other guys that nobody's ever seen on a football field making more money than him. That's my point. And it's happens time and time and time again. It seems that if you're a black starting quarterback in the NFL, when you're no longer a starter, the chances of you getting that backup position and making reasonable backup money, which nowadays is somewhere between $5 to $10 million a year, and sitting on somebody's bench for 5, 7, 10 years and making that kind of money, we don't get those opportunities. And we'll leave it at that because we done beat Cam up enough.
Cam.
Yeah.
Oh, Cam.
So we wish Cam luck. New England, I think they're going to win the AFC East again, and we'll see how that plays out.
I know somebody on that Bills Mafia that'll disagree with you. He probably watching too.
Our next subject is near and dear to one of our co-hosts' heart. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Professor J. And Professor J, tell us what your alma mater did last week.
Well, if we're going to break it out like that, let's just do it right. So the prestigious and one and only Morehouse College made a great and, in my opinion, right decision on canceling their fall football season as well as other college sports that take place on campus. So let me give you guys a bit of a background here. The reason why this was such a momentous and monumentous decision is because we have many schools that are kind of going back and forth on whether they should cancel the season or modify their schedule with different games. And many of the HBCUs, Division II and Division III teams are already putting a cap on 10 games. And they're eliminating any games where the playing field was in a mutually agreed upon spot. So those games go away. It's in a move to really protect the college players from themselves and from the general student body. Because let's not forget, the reason for college is higher education. Come on, somebody say that with me. The reason for college
is higher education.
I know sports is a big part of it because it generates this. But many schools are looking at the map of COVID-19. They're following the advice of people, scientists, doctors, people that know better than we do. And they're telling them that they kind of need to modify things to keep the student body, as well as the faculty and the greater communities that our colleges are found in, safe. So when you have that caveat placed on the table, then the president, the AD of Morehouse College, they made a tough decision now. And I don't want to hear this stuff about HBCUs are small or it's a small program, because really the bigger schools can take some lessons from what's being done here. You keep your student body safe. We know as of June 1st, campuses all across the country have opened up their facilities for their college players to come back and to start training and practicing. And what have we seen, fellas? Tens and tens of players and personnel getting sick or being quarantined at major universities across the country. And we know that many colleges and universities are not reporting because they're not mandated to do so. So the numbers could actually be greater at the players that are and coaches that are testing positive and being quarantined because of COVID-19. Then when you look at the major states, Florida, Texas, Arizona, they are having widespread outbreaks again right now because they loosened up their restrictions on what we should do to be responsible to stay safe. So we talked about it last week. Don't have your kids sign these pledges like Ohio State. We got to make the right decisions and cancel sports. I never thought I would be saying it, y'all, but canceling these sports so that we can keep our kids safe. I got a college freshman going this fall, and I want her to be safe. So let me be clear. They made the right decision. And we can break down a little bit more about how the decision got made, because you have college coaches that can't agree on what they should do. Take Oklahoma, for example. You got Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. None of them can agree on when they should actually start opening up their facilities for players to come back. I mean, Lincoln Riley, I think, wants July 6th at the latest for his players to start coming back. So if you can't agree, you guys need to know that in this $4 billion football industry across the country, the players that come back, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but they looked at upon as cattle, because they want to make this money for their universities. But we have to do the smart thing, and that's why we opening this up for discussion. Fellas, tell me what you think about this.
Well, I've been saying it all along. Safe is better than sorry any day. And as you stated earlier, Jamani, I mean, look at the death toll. The numbers are steadily increasing. Dr. Fauci said it right now. If you're not wearing a mask, you're wrong. Right. So why are we even still talking about this? It's just, go ahead, man.
Right. We still talking about it because they can't look past the green in the revenue that they should be making. I mean, Mark Emmert's already said that he expects other schools to follow suit. Now, if the president of the NCAA tells you that he expects other schools to follow suit, you know it's going to happen. You know it's coming down the pike. I think it just needed to be done by a school that had the guts to really stand out there and say, you know what, this is the right thing to do. And I quote, Morehouse College sent out a statement that said they were not confident in their ability to protect their scholar athletes. So they said, no way, we're not going to do it. And I think you'll start seeing other schools following suit.
So my take on this is, and I'm just going to limit it to the Morehouse decision, which I believe was the best decision that they could make. And I think it's a decision that all the athletic departments across the country should take. But I have to go along with the president of Morehouse. I believe his name is David Thomas. And basically, he said it wasn't an easy decision for him and the AD. I guess his name is Javaro Edwards down in Morehouse. It wasn't an easy decision for them to come to. But President Thomas ultimately asked himself, why is he in this business? And ultimately, he came to the conclusion that he was in the business, the academic business, but not creating athletic opportunities. So basically, his job was to educate kids. It wasn't to create football players for the NFL or for glory or what have you. But he also said he wasn't going to be on his high horse, and he was happy for the luxury that he was able to make this decision without the pressure of TV contracts. And that's huge. And it's I thought it was brilliant and honest and forthcoming of him to admit this, that his program loses $2 million a year. And so ultimately his job isn't to put on halftime shows, etc. It's to ensure the safety of his children, of his kids, not children, but of his students. And according to the AD, he said that if he couldn't provide the same level of protection that a Michigan or an Alabama or a University of Georgia could provide to their kids, then he couldn't do it. And so they canceled this. They canceled the season. And interesting enough is that President Thomas said within the SEAC conference, which is the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, which Morehouse plays under, it wasn't a universal agreed upon decision for him to cancel the season. So he actually got pressure from the other presidents within that conference, all black colleges, I might add, to play the season, which I found really interesting. Really? What's the point? If you can't protect the kids, then why even try to play? And with hospitals, like Big Reg mentioned in his opening statements, with hospitals already maxed out as far as capacity is concerned, with the reemergence of this COVID-19 pandemic, there's no reason to play this. There's no reason to go forward with the season.
Right. And then with other states starting to shut down, again, then what does that do to the training facilities and being allowed to be on campus? And it is a rule that you have to have 4 weeks of practice before you can even consider starting a football season in the NCAA. So if people aren't allowed to get back in practice, and time will be getting short, because like J3 said, we got more waves coming. Even Dr. Fauci said it's not necessarily a second wave. It's another peak of the first wave, because we haven't really gotten through it successfully, because we got people that just don't want to follow the rules. So the timeline might just pretty much run out for college football, and the major programs may not even be able to play anyway based on that rule.
Well, you talk about major programs, and Ed brought up a point that if I couldn't protect my kids like some of the big Power 5 schools, then why am I doing it? Let's look at the Power 5 schools. Like Professor Jay said, Clemson, a third of their football team has tested positive since they've been back on campus.
Yep.
The locker rooms are breeding grounds for this stuff. Texas, Houston, Alabama, out in I believe it's USC. They wrote to the president of the school because they wanted an outside person put in charge of reviewing the safety plan for the football team because they ain't trust the coach.
Yeah, you can't trust the coach.
Wow.
You can't trust them.
So you're talking about all these schools that are in it strictly for that TV contract and that money, and it's going to take a big time school to say, you know what, this is ridiculous, to have a cascade. I think Morehouse is going to start a lot with the mid-level to low schools, and then realize let's not do this. But I think the Power 5 is going to try to force this way into playing football, and I think it's going to be a huge mistake.
Yeah, and to that point, Big Reg, one of the Power 5 schools already made an adjustment. Both Harbaugh and not Jalen Rose, the other guy, the basketball coach,
Juwan
they've already taken. Yeah,
10%
Juwan Howard.
cut.
Yeah, he kind of stained it here in Washington. Yeah, they already took pay cuts in order to help out the school so that other departments could actually get paid. So other schools are going to take that approach as well. But how deeply can you go in pay cuts? Because again, we talking about $4 billion that college football brings in across the country. Even with pay cuts, you're not even going to be able to make that up.
I hear you. I think we're going to have to do a wait and see on this and see if Morehouse will be the stellar leader in an event to protect the scholar athletes and make sure that scholar is first and not just athletes to make us money. Right. Now, we're also the Ivy League. They're in the middle of making a decision. They've got two plans on the table. They're only going to play each other. They're not going to play anybody outside the Ivy League. And they're either going to play a 7 or 8 games season starting in September, or they're actually thinking about pushing it back to the spring or not play football at all. So the Ivy League, as we saw with the basketball tournament, again, they're not in it for the money. So I think they're going to make a decision that's in the best interest of the football players.
And wouldn't it be crazy for the service academies to play football, knowing what happened on the USS? I think Teddy Roosevelt, I think it was, and even scientists, shout out to SI.com, they said that these locker rooms and facilities are more like petri dishes, just like the USS Teddy Roosevelt. So I don't know how people gonna get past doing it.
I hear you. I hear you. The next big issue tomorrow, players are supposed to report to start the Major League Baseball training camp or second training camp to start the 60-game season. Ed, what you find out about what we should look forward to with Major League Baseball over the next couple of weeks?
Well, first of all, I think Major League Baseball is my new favorite sport. The business of it, the business of it. I'm not talking about watching games. I'm just talking about the background. Basically, starting tomorrow, like Big Rez mentioned, MLB, they're going to start reporting pitchers first, obviously, just like it was a regular spring training. They're going to start reporting, and it's a total of 60 players total is going to end up on these teams. They're calling it a players pool. There's not going to be any minor league activity this year. So with that said, it's going to be they're going to start off with 60 players, and starting in week 2, they're going to go into the season with 30 players. And then after every 2 weeks, they're going to cut it down until eventually reaching the player total of 26. But before we even get to that point, the players have an opt-out revision as far as their agreement to come back. And basically what that means is that players that have underlying conditions, whether that be, it could be a kidney disease, it could be a heart ailment, it could be whatever. And this is just limited to the players. This doesn't extend to their family members. They have the option of opting out and getting paid their full prorated salary, and not losing any service time as far as accruing the accruement of service time, which is big time in baseball. And then the second option is the players can just completely opt out, which locally we had one of the stars from the Nats. Well, actually, 2 players from the Nats have opted out, one being Ryan Zimmerman.
Zimmerman and Ross.
Right.
And Ross.
Now you can opt out, and then that would be at the owner's discretion whether or not they get paid and whether or not their accruals is counted. But anyway, upon reporting, they have to take 2 tests. Every player has to take a saliva test. They're also called a PCR test, and that immediately detects COVID-19. They also have to submit to a blood test, which detects antibodies, which means basically whether you've been exposed or have already had COVID-19. And if they do test positive for the COVID-19 through the saliva test, they have to go into immediate quarantine, which is 2-week minimum, 10 days. And then once they reach that 2-week point, they would have to resubmit to another saliva test, and they have to be 2 of them 24 hours apart, test negative, and also they have to submit to temperature checks. Now, these temperature checks are going to be actually taking place. Every team has to submit temperature checks twice a day. Every player has to submit to a temperature check twice a day throughout the season, regardless of whether you've tested positive or not. Also, if they do initially test positive, in order to get back onto the field, in addition to passing another test and following the quarantine, they have to be approved to be back on the field by a team doctor and a combination of a committee set up between the MLB and the Players Association. So that's basically as far as the reporting is concerned. Also, the new rules that they have in place, the pitchers are no longer going to hit, and we probably will never see another pitcher face a batter the rest of the history of Major League Baseball.
Thank God.
Yeah. extra innings, they're automatically going to place a runner on second base if a game should go into extra innings, and that player will be the player preceding the player up. So if you have, for instance, if you have the number 5 batter hitting, the number 4 hitter who hit before him, even if it was in the obviously was in the previous inning, he would be automatically placed on second base to start extra innings. And also, and this will actually definitely speed up the game. All pitchers must face at least 3 batters, or finish the inning. And an inning consists of 2 half innings if you really think about it. So 1 inning, each team has a chance to bat. That is considered a half an inning. So moving forward, the pitchers, you can't have like 4 or 5 pitcher changes within 1 inning that we've seen countless times watching a baseball game, particularly in the postseason. There's no spitting allowed, no sunflower seeds or what have you. The social distance must be practiced throughout the stadium. In the dugouts, you won't even see a full lineup in the dugouts. Some will be sitting in the stands. Some of the players will be sitting in the stands. They can't show up to the ballpark earlier than 5 hours before the game, and they must leave within 90 minutes following the game. No showers. Yeah. And all players have to, again, submit to a temperature check upon entering the stadium. Anything above 100.4, they cannot come into the stadium. So that's just some of the things kicking off. But I think the most important thing is this if you test positive in a 9-week season, and if say you have to be quarantined, and this could happen at any time in the season, and if you have to be quarantined for 2 weeks of a 9-week season, that potentially is going to alter the competitive balance of the league. I mean, if you have say a Mike Trout, if all of a sudden he gets quarantined for 2 weeks, or a Max Scherzer, or heaven forbid Max Scherzer and Strasburg for the Nats.
Oof. Hey, don't put that out there.
But I'm just saying. But here's an interesting provision that the MLB, PA, and the Major League Baseball agreed on back in March, that the commissioner, Rob Manfred, has the power and authority that at any point during the season, including the preseason, if the cases of COVID-19 goes out of control, which they acknowledge there's going to be positive tests. There's already been 40 confirmed cases to this point, and we haven't even gotten started. There's been training facilities shut down throughout Major League Baseball already. Some of the hot spots of California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, many of these players come from these locations, not to mention the overseas players that who knows what type of protocols and safety guidelines they're following in, the Caribbean or South America. So it's going to be it's basically going to be a season of attrition. But I honestly believe, as I'm sitting here tonight, I can't see the season being completed because there's just so many variables involved that could go wrong. So again.
And their big thing is they're playing in their home stadiums. So you've got all these teams playing in different cities, traveling from city to city to play each other. That's just asking for disaster.
And there's no restrictions on player movement as far as once they get back to the hotel. Say they have a 3-game set down in DC. In fact, July 23rd is supposed to be the season opener between the defending champions, Washington Nationals, and the New York Yankees, right? So say it's a 3-game series. If it's a 3-game series, there's no one preventing Garrett Cole, who's the starting pitcher now for the New York Yankees, who by the way, the Nats beat a few months ago in the World Series while he was with Houston. But there's no restriction on him going out to get a drink. They suggest he doesn't go out and get a drink. They suggest he gets room service, but there's nobody stopping him. There's not playing in a bubble like the NBA or the NHL are planning to do. So, I find it. I see that.
I got a question. Who's administering these tests? Are these Major League Baseball doctors? Is this an outside company?
It's Dr. Fauci.
They haven't been 100% clear as far as who's going to be administering them, but I would say it would be an outside doctors or doctors that they've actually hired for to administer these tests. But you bring up an interesting point, Johnny, is that a lot of the players are skeptical that the teams are actually going to report positive tests. So there's still a lot of animosity left over from what we witnessed this past spring as far as the negotiation to restart the season. The players are still carrying a chip on their shoulders because they don't trust the owners. And so they don't, to your point, they don't trust that they're going to be forthright with these test results in order to win. I mean, you think about it. A 60-game season is equivalent of the NFL having 6 games. So it's going to be intense. Win at all costs. Because the real money doesn't come during the regular season. It's the postseason. The owners, they want that postseason bad because that's when the real TV money is going to kick in.
Sounds good. Appreciate all the info on MLB. So we'll sit back and see what happens. Like you said, they report tomorrow. Supposed to start July 24th right here in the nation's capital with the Washington Nats against the Yankees. And we'll see if they. No, you don't. You don't want to be sitting in any stadium this time.
Oh, spacesuit.
Of a side note to that. Currently, there's not going to be any fans. But the owner of the Houston Astros, I'm sorry, he said, "I'm putting fans. If they want to be there, I'm putting them in the stadium."
Of course, that's money for them.
Yeah, one of the largest spikes in the country in Houston, and he want to put fans in the stadium. Moving on, NBA. Hey, I got to give it to them. They keep pushing on. They say the bubble is here. We going through it. Adam Silver, though, gives it to us straight most of the time. He said there are no guarantees. I can't promise that no one's going to get sick and everything's going to be great. We're doing the best we can do in an unprecedented situation. He believes that the bubble will be the safest place to be in the country based on all the money they're spending. The NBA is projected to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 to $50 million just in testing and setting up security in the perimeter for this bubble situation, not including the games, just for the bubble to try to make sure the players are safe. With that being said, Wednesday was the day when a bunch of players had to decide whether they were going to play or not. Officially, there still was a little wiggle room in that. And you didn't have a lot of people opt out. That surprised me. I thought we would have had more people opt out. And what's so funny? Oh, okay. I understand.
Yes, sir.
So, considering the release of the NBA schedule, they released their 8-game schedule. They're kicking off the first night, July 30th, with the Utah Jazz playing the New Orleans Pelicans. I wonder why that game got picked for the first night. Say Zion.
Of course.
And then they closed the night with the Lakers against the Clippers. So, the bubble's happening. We're getting ready to get done. First, let me ask you about the schedule. Was there anything that jumped off at you guys about the schedule for the 8-game run to the playoffs?
I just think that the New Orleans Pelicans have it's been set up for them to succeed. It has, and the NBA has been doing this for years. And I have to give them credit. And I'm not hating the game, nor am I hating the player. It's just the way they do business, and they're good at what they do. and they want to make sure their stars have every opportunity. Because really, the 8-game season was for nothing. I mean, I don't understand why the NBA even went that route. I think they could have just jumped into the playoffs, just like the NHL is planning on doing. I don't understand this.
Local market TV money.
Yep.
Well, there you go. The theme always comes back to the money.
Yep.
And I'm like I said, I'm not hating. But it just jumped out to me when I saw that first game, Zion. I was like, oh, and then looked at the preceding games. I was like, oh, it's there. It's right there for them.
They had to, in my opinion. That was smart. Put your best product out there on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
To watch. It's the opening weekend. Now, I definitely think they did make it very easy. Where they're attempting to make it easy for those guys. They're a big draw. But I didn't expect anything less.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ed. I think they're trying to work it out some way that the Pelicans can get within that, 4-game window so they can have the playoff for that last 8 seed and try to sneak Zion into the playoffs. Now, on the East side, what's going on with the Nets is crazy. I mean, did y'all hear DeAndre Jordan and Spencer Dinwiddie both tested positive? Jordan said, I'm out. He said, I'm not coming to the bubble even after I go through my quarantine. Dinwiddie says that he's not sure, depending on what happens. You've already got Kyrie out. You already got KD out. Sounds like Brooklyn doesn't really want to play, which means the number 9 seed actually may have a shot at making the playoffs.
That's the truth.
Can y'all see the Wizards making the playoffs?
It would be nice. We ain't saying
they were hoping John Wall would play this year, but he said nope.
No, he don't need to play. Come back next year. But it's not. I would love for those young guys to get the experience. And if Dinwiddie had DeAndre Jordan's money, he probably wouldn't play either.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Yep. Real talk.
So, go ahead, Ed.
I do believe this was a subject that you first opened up with. I do believe that Adam Silver, I think he's a good commissioner, and I think that the bubble concept is the only way that you really could play a team sport, because and have any type of success. Again, people will test positive for COVID even once the season gets started. It's just this disease has proven that there's no barriers to it. There's nothing really slows it down. Well, nothing really prevents it. It could be slowed down, but thus far we started talking about this thing back in the winter. And here it is, the heart of the summer, and we're still talking about it. So it's proven that it can reach anyone at any time. But I do believe that bubble, and I apologize for going backwards, but I do believe that bubble is probably the best thing possible, and the resources they're pumping into ensure that it works. I think it's the best possible way for everyone involved to be as safe as possible. So it's a great idea.
How often are these courts they're playing on, are they going to be shared? How often will they be sharing them?
That's a great question. The NBA, starting the 31st, will be playing 5 to 8 games a day from basically noon to midnight. Now, there are 3 courts that they're going to be utilizing at the Disney Wild World of Sports. So basically, you'll have 2 teams playing on probably 2 of the courts. Then you have another team come in, go to the other court. They clean off the other 2 courts, clean off the chairs, bring another 2 set of teams in.
So they run
the people going to be the most important cats on this thing.
So they're running it like an AAU tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Everybody's getting COVID.
Yeah, because
I don't know how they're going to stop it. I don't know how they're going to stop it.
Think about it.
Everybody get COVID.
If you got 2 teams playing, and then the next 2 going to play after the first 2, when are they cleaning up? When are they going to clean down all the equipment that's on the floor? because it has to be disinfected before you bring another team in.
And you
You
can't
got
keep
three.
putting cleaning products on a basketball floor. I would love to see what type of stuff they're using, because if that floor is slick because it's being cleaned too much, there go another issue.
Yep.
What are they
Woo.
putting? People are sweating. You know, you got a lot of different moving pieces that are going on. This is going to be very interesting. And I'm waiting for that video because you know it's going to be somebody who breaks into the bubble and starts shooting videos. Somebody's going to get in that bubble that doesn't belong. It may be J3. I don't know.
Yeah, y'all know who coming to the bubble. You just ain't gonna see them on camera. And I leave it there.
So the facility is 25 square miles, or Disneyland in and of itself is 25 square miles?
Where they gonna have them housed?
Yeah, the
good question.
Disney
They claim
campus is like 6 square miles.
That's
I
a
was
good
about to say
question.
25 square miles. That's a different ball game.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Speaking about the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
half man, half amazing, made it official.
Vin City.
Insanity, Mr. Vince Carter, after 22
Tar Heels.
years in the league, the only man ever to play in 4 different decades, has finally hung his shoes up and said he's officially retired from the NBA.
Yeah. And he made his
So-
last shot.
Yeah, they actually put him back in the game so he could hit a 3 to make sure,
Yeah.
because they wanted to make sure. They didn't know if they was going to play again. So hats off to Vince Carter. The question is
Right.
Vince a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Yes.
He gotta be.
Yes.
Got
Yes.
to be a Hall of Famer. Hands
Come on,
down.
Johnny. Yeah.
He'd have been a Hall of Famer 10 years ago.
Come on,
Vince-
Johnny.
Johnny, you quiet.
Vince
What did
did a
Vince
lot.
won?
Pass the ball. Pass the mic, Johnny.
Come on, man. Step up. Step up.
I love Vince. Vince is my man. He's a dude
Uh-oh.
on the 8-foot courts. 8-foot courts. I tried to emulate him as much as possible, but I think if you take in impact, okay, yes, he makes the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at his numbers, there are quite a few individuals who have much better numbers for a lot longer time. I think when his cousin, actually, when he made it into the Hall of Fame, and I'm speaking of Tracy McGrady.
It's McGrady.
When Tracy
T-Mac.
McGrady made it into the Hall of Fame, he crushed the grading requirements. Tracy McGrady had a hot 5-6 years.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
They were some of the
Right.
best years I ever seen. But that's it. And we're talking about the Hall of Fame. This is the pinnacle. This is the top where the best are revered. What is Vince Carter known for outside of jumping very high and dunking on a 7-footer in the Olympics? Let's be real.
But he did jump over that 7-footer.
He jumped right over.
And those Toronto teams are pretty competitive.
They were definitely nice.
But they've watered down the Hall of Fame on baseball, football. All Hall of Fames are watered down now because if we simply put the superstars in there, then the Hall of Fame we could cut the Hall of Fame in half of across sports. So, but with I think his longevity makes it where he should be in the Hall of Fame, and he wasn't a bum for 20 years or 22 years.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
political.
he gets in on impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got my vote.
Impact. If you're seeing
he had mine too.
Raptors, if you're playing the Toronto Raptors back in their heyday, were you concerned about Vince? Yes, but he didn't have you sweating.
I understand.
I don't know.
That's only because Vince never took over a game. He just added to the game. So you got to take that in consideration.
All I know is when he went to Carolina to get his degree, they was happy because they knew it would take a little bit off his game, and they did end up losing that game. But I'm telling you, people did have nightmares about him. I don't care if it was him dunking on you or doing something in the game that made you look silly. But he was a great player, man. He was a great player.
Nice. I like him. I love him. He was
Vince Carter. He saved basketball in Canada.
He did.
Don't forget, the other Canadian basketball team went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver's.
Vancouver Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get support.
Now
End up having to move to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Carter saved Canadian basketball as far as NBA, and he's also blossomed. You got a rash of Canadian players in the NBA now who are playing because Vince Carter was there, Michael Jordan for Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Now I got a question. Does Vince deserve to be in the Hall of Fame more than Tracy McGrady?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
does. He does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah.
Which proves our point. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
This is interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, but I think they got to put my boy Chris Webber in before they put Vince in. Just saying.
Huh?
I agree.
And Chris Webber had a way more productive career than Vince
Yep.
Carter. Like it's not
Agreed.
even close. I'm so
After he left Washington. I just got a problem with all the cats that left Washington. I'm sorry. I got to buy it. I just
he had Chris had too much money and was too young in Washington. He had to leave.
When you got a poor organization, you can't blame it on the players. I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fellas, it's time for what other things have caught our eye over the week. I'd like to start off this segment by saying happy anniversary to the Negro League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They celebrated their 100th year anniversary yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember that baseball was played very well before the MLB was around.
Mm-hmm.
After they were around, when they excluded us from being able to play in the Major League Baseball, and even after they started taking a few of us in.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely want to, as they were doing on Sports Center throughout the country, I didn't wear my hat today, but I tipped my hat to the Negro Leagues for the 100-year anniversary. As far as the NFL, Hall of Fame game is gone, fellas. The first thing the NFL has canceled was the Hall of Fame game. Like any of us really was going to watch that anyway. But the big loss was the actual Hall of Fame ceremony. It's being delayed to 2021.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything that caught their eye this week?
Yeah, what caught my eye, I saw a clip, Duke's Mike Krzyzewski, Black Lives Matter, human rights statement, not a political one. I mean, I think that was a strong read that he actually expressed. But my question has been, where were you 4 years ago when it happened? Where were you 10 years ago when it happened? I mean, I understand you stepping up and you speaking now, but why now and not then? I mean, trust and believe. And he actually said it. You know, it's been a real struggle for African Americans that have what they've been going through for the last 400 years. But like, again, why haven't you said something prior to this? But I appreciate what he commented.
Well, he don't want none of them. He don't want none of them players going over to Central, North Carolina Central. It's in Durham, so it wouldn't be a stretch. So he got he got to step up to the plate.
They can just come to North Carolina Tar Heels. Thank you very much.
Oh my!
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Ain't that a Maryland hat you got on over there?
No, this is Morehouse. Don't
Morehouse,
get that
right? My bad.
I tell you
Anybody?
what.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I tell you what caught my eye. Make sure you stay safe and be careful, because right now, currently, there's a basketball tournament being played down at the courts at Berry Farms. People have lost their minds.
What? Wow.
I thought they tore that down.
No, that's
they
the only
left the
thing
courts
still
up.
I don't
They
know.
tore up
That's
everything,
crazy.
tore down everything else, but the courts are still there.
See, so they gave them a pass to go play basketball.
And
They
I don't
try and
see
kill
one
us, y'all. I'm trying to tell you.
I don't see one mask in the crowd. Not one. It got to be 200 people out there.
Wow.
Wow, that's terrible.
Wow. State of Mississippi finally changed the state flag. And it was primarily due to athletes saying they weren't going to play for their state schools anymore, and the coaches getting together with the NCAA, the SEC, saying we will not bring any postseason tournaments or games to the state until the state flag is changed. So now the Confederate flag is no longer flying on any state flags.
Yay.
Beautiful.
And this goes back to what I was just alluding to with J3. Mississippi Valley State, Jackson State, Alcorn State, they'll welcome you with open arms.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not want to lose these players. It took them long enough to get them on campus, and that was for financial purposes. They don't want to lose them over financial purposes. Let's get this. It's just a flag. You keep one in your garage. Don't worry about it. But yeah,
That's what they're gonna do too.
It's all a
In the
game,
car,
man. And
too.
it's all a game, and I hope our athletes, get educated and wise up to, say, hey, enough is enough. The exploitation has to end at some point. And if you want to wave that rebel flag, that's fine. I know where it won't be flowing. Like I said, Jackson State, Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley State, they have campuses too, football teams too, basketball teams, it all, track. J Mini.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers.
All right, fellas, it's time for our final post. Let's start it off with Professor J. What you got for me, partner?
Okay, I just want to just keep continuing the sentiments of people being safe out there. Do what you're supposed to do. Stay well, take care of your family. And shout out to Lamar Jackson. You be safe. You made the cover of John Madden, so I hope that jinx don't get you this year. So just be well. All right.
All right. All right. J3, what you got for me?
Just want to say it's good to be here with you all, and that everyone just stay positive, stay safe, and just think smart.
Well said. Well said. Ed, what you got for me?
I'm following the theme of my co-hosts and brothers. Please be safe. It's the fourth holiday this weekend. It's going to be hot in most places around the country. Everybody going to be out bumping elbows, down Barry Forum balling. Johnny, don't let me come past that court and see you down there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Doing
Doing a no-look
but again,
pass. Right.
If you must be out, just wear a mask.
Got you. All right, Johnny, that sets you up. What you got for us?
They say when a man marries a woman, he marries the family. My wife has 3 sisters and a mother. She's the only daughter. Well, she's the only one that hasn't had a baby yet. She's currently pregnant, and they've taken over. If anybody, if you see me in the street, just wave, give me a hug, a high five, because I don't know what I'm doing anymore, guys. I'm just here. I've taken out more trash than I've ever taken out in my life. I put myself in the can. I woke up at Waste Management. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, get used to that for a while.
You ain't seen nothing yet, partner. Wait till that baby get here. You might as well move outside.
He said Waste Management.
That's a lot, Big Will. We see you.
I'd just like to give a shout out to all the athletes out there, specifically women's professional softball team. They work hard, the Scrapyard Dogs. After an incident about a post that they didn't take too kindly that came from the GM, the whole team resigned decided to start their own team. And to give you an idea of who these ladies are, 13 of the members of their team are projected to be 2021 USA softball players for the Olympic team.
Nice.
Also, the starting running back from Mississippi State, who stepped up, he was the one that said, I'm not playing for this school until you change this flag. College athletes, pro athletes are starting to use their voice and understand their power and continue to do so. We see that it's all about the money, and without the athletes, they can't make the money. So use that to your advantage.
Amen. Amen.
Right.
We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate your time and the opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. Please tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our live shows. You can also download previous shows in this show via Facebook or our YouTube page. When you go to the YouTube page, not only like, please subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Positions on Sports. You're funny. You're killing me, Professor J. We greatly appreciate if you share the show with your friends, family members, and social media contacts. And please shoot us an email, shoot us a message if you have any ideas how we can make the show better. We appreciate your time. We appreciate this opportunity. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful week. This has been Post, the Positional Sports Talk Show. Peace.
God bless you.
Yeah.